Welcome everybody to this week's OneDoor Studios update. And we have some really great stuff today because we have our advisory council, some of our members of our advisory council with us, and which we get to share what's going on directly with them and kind of get their feedback on what we share. And so welcome everybody. Welcome Kim, welcome Cassie, and of course Angelina and Daniel, they're with us, and John too. So welcome Kim and Cassie today.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be sharing some of our new pitch decks, right, Daniel? Kind of call it a pitch deck.
Yes, sir. Pitch deck.
And the pitch deck's purpose is, this pitch decks that we've, given to investors before, but this one is actually because we're going to be going to potential production partners for the calculated film. And we're going to share that pitch deck with our investor council today. We wanted to get their feedback. So I don't want to do the talking today. I'll let Dan and our advisory council do the talking today. So Dan, take it over today. Show us what we got.
So pitch deck's a funny term. You know how terms of art kind of age over time. People ask, why would you call it a deck? What does that mean? Well, it used to be we would build these presentations that were this thick in paper, and you'd measure them by the thump they made on a desk. And that is old, kind of archaic way of doing it. Now we actually make a digital presentation, which has video and all kinds of cool things in it. So we're going to show you that. And first, before we do, I just love for everybody to introduce themselves real quickly, because some of our members who will be watching this would love to know who's on the call. Kim, why don't we start with you? Would you like to introduce yourself, and how'd you get involved with this series?
Hi, my name is Kim Hill. I am in Erie, Pennsylvania. I first ran across Legion M and did some research and found Calculated. And I joined Nova McBee's book club on Instagram and went through all 3 books, and am very excited for the 4th one. So just waiting for that. And I'm super excited to be a part of this. Thanks.
And Cassie.
Hi, I'm from Northwest Ohio. I've been a little involved in movies for a while now, and WeFunder knew what I liked, so they suggested Calculated to me, and I snapped it right up because it looks like such an amazing project. I'm very excited to be here and be part of all of this.
And I think you guys know the rest of us here. We're the old guys, been around the team for a little bit.
The old guys.
I'm going to introduce the now what we call the deck. And so this is a presentation material that we use to start marketing. And I come from a marketing background. How do you take our story and then bring it to the right powers that be, the studios? There'll be co-producers, there'll be directors, lots of people that have interest in our story. We need to be able to tell it in a really interesting way and help people visually understand it. So that's what this is about. So what I'd like to do is kind of walk us through it, and feel free to stop me and just talk about something we're about to see, because there's a lot here. There's a lot of art, a lot of work went into this. We've been working for months and months on this, and what you're going to see is the end game of that effort. And so we start with just a visual, and think about the simplicity of the visual here. It expresses that sense of infinity, the number 8, which is so powerful in the film series, and the idea that this is a franchise. So it's a symbol that kind of brings that franchise together. Now, keep in mind that this franchise will have different names to it as each film comes along, but the parent to that franchise is Calculated. And so when we first start making a pitch, what's important is that we have to have some kind of credibility. You can't just walk into a studio and say, hey, my film's neat, here's some cool pictures. You've got to show that you've got some history and something that is worthy. And what we start with is just look at the recognition. I mean, the International Thriller Awards, the Washington State Library Awards, Distinguished Favorite. All of these things are part of telling that story to help people understand why we believe this is the next Teen Mega Series. And then we go into the reviews. Do people like it? You got to kind of clear that question. Do people really want to come and see this when it's a movie? And ideally, they read the book, and that's going to help them want to come see the movie. And of course, you've got the review after review. And at the bottom here, you see, I can't wait for the movie. That's exactly what we want when we hear our customers tell us that, because it says there's an opportunity here. And so then we start showing the vision, and we start broad. Big vision is This is a wonderfully complex thriller. It's got all this opportunity. There are 4 novels in all that will be completed and turned into books. So that's kind of the long, big picture vision. It's a young adult feature film franchise and so on. But then why do we believe this is going to be a great story? Well, let's start with a great storyteller. We all know the Chronicles of Narnia was a big hit. We know that it had a great story and a meaning behind it. And so we see here that we've introduced our screenwriter, which we're super proud of. And maybe I'll turn it back to John and the team to talk about Ann Peacock and the importance of why we need to mention the Ann Peacock as a part of this project.
There's nothing more important than the script for every project. It's the story, and every motion picture begins with this, and it never gets better than the script. It can get worse. So you always start out with a screenwriter who's really seasoned. And this particular screenwriter has specializes in adaptations, novel adaptations, which is a big deal. But the bigger deal Dan mentioned, which is that she's a studio level or studio grade screenwriter. This is what she does. It's what she's known for. Awarded also, just like Nova has been awarded, but more seasoned, and her biggest award is the actual cash earnings. So this Narnia has earned more than $1 billion globally, and very few pictures get into that stature. And the fact that we have our screenwriter is able to adapt something from a novel series that's that good is a big deal. So we ran up her up the flagpole for people that are in the industry. Many of them, which is always exciting, saying, "Oh, Anne," and yes, it is her, and she has a great reputation, and we're just really blessed and fortunate to have her writing the script.
And speaking of the Chronicles of Narnia, you want to be able to say, you hear it in the marketing, brought to you by the makers of the Chronicles of Narnia, or you hear that kind of promotional language. This is one of the opportunities from a marketing perspective that's important, because people want to know, am I going to want to watch this movie? Who wrote it? And that tells a story. But then from a marketing perspective in the studio side, they want to know, well, who else was involved in that series? And we have now on the call Paul Lauer, who actually was the lead on the influencer engagement and marketing outreach for the Chronicles of Narnia. So
Cassie and Kim, I want to ask for your feedback real quick, because I didn't know when Paul Lauer came on our team, I didn't know that he was actually so instrumental in the marketing of Narnia. So here we have the screenwriter for Narnia and marketing for Narnia on our team now, and I was just excited beyond belief. I wanted to hear what you guys think. Cassie, maybe Cassie, you go first. Did you know that, first of all? And number two, like, how does it make you feel about this project?
I did not know that, but I find it incredibly exciting. For someone of that caliber to want to be interested in the project just tells me even more how big this project's going to be, and how people that know what they're doing are getting excited more and more about the project. So
Yeah. And what about you, Kim?
Obviously, I knew about Ann Peacock and am super excited. No, I did not know about Paul. I feel the same way Cassie does. It's sort of like a review before the reviews, because if they've already read the books and they know what they're doing and they're excited about it, it's an endorsement of very high caliber.
That's a great way to put it. It's an endorsement. That's super important. So
it's good that they're on the team.
I'll speak for Paul so he doesn't have to brag. Paul was really one of the founding fathers of what we refer to as influencer engagement. The idea that you can reach out to highly engaged people who have large followings from the faith community in particular is where he started with launching The Passion of the Christ. And I remember the first time meeting him, I was going to a red carpet premiere for The Passion, and I thought Mel Gibson was going to be the presenter. And I met Paul there instead, who was the presenter of the event, and put it together. The idea that you can get massive, large groups of people behind a film because they believe in its cause. They believe in what its values are about. That was a concept that Paul kind of pioneered, and we're seeing that as an ability that now bringing to our team, I think is a superpower for us. We're super excited about Paul. And I'm also excited about the others who got involved to create what we now call our crowd creations community. If you go to the co-create button on any one of our offerings, you can go to these communities. And this particular community right now is creating the content to visualize and pre-visualize the story of Calculated. And so this is just an example of just some of the content you're seeing here. And we have more than 1,000 pieces of art now that have been created in collaboration with our artists, our studio designers, and the crowd itself. And then we have investors joining in the conversation to kind of guide and even literally art direct the story. In the film, we can see in the making of these projects, you can see where the Nova McBee joins in, and she'll start talking to the other designers and asks them, can you change the way Kai looks? I think he looks a little bit too old. Or can you make Red look a little bit younger without a beard? You know, those are things that are happening by the minute, and you can watch us in production. This has never been done before. And so what we're now getting is coverage on Fox News, CBS, PBS, NBC. They've all come in and done stories on this because they see this as the future of the way film can be made. So before I jump on, what's your feeling about this crowd creations concept?
I love it. I'm in your Discord group. I don't know anything about creating the graphic art, but I find it fascinating. I love to see the different pictures. I like how everyone is scattered all over the country, yet they can communicate within 2 minutes. I like this. Can you change this? And the feedback is amazing. The artwork is just out of this world. And it's fun to be involved in the cutting edge of something that is so new.
We're super excited about it as well. So this is where we start telling the story. So you have to have a storytelling venue for your, visualization of the film. And when you're meeting with people to say, hey, would you like to direct my film? Or would you like to potentially act in the film? Then the actor can kind of picture themselves in this role, and they can see this picture of this. Right now, this is an AI generated individual, so it's not a real person, but it gives us the ability to have a consistent face that people say, this is Joe, this is our representational version of what she might be. And then over time we can find out who that might actually be, and how we can actually bring that story to life. And we all know Joe has this capability that's supernaturally able to calculate and predict the future and see what we can't see. And so we want to visualize that. And so we're thinking about the numbers. Maybe there's a way where the numbers can come in as kind of lights of thought and action and drama, and build that kind of design element that starts becoming a signature for the series. And so you start seeing this visual unfold. And then, of course, you have to run into Maxima. And Maxima has to be that ominous, kind of glamorous, scary lady. And that's basically what we've come up with, is this visual of Maxima and her black yacht, which is so iconic in the story. And so Kidnapped is the first thing we face. We think the visuals that the artists are doing are just unbelievable. We're getting so much rich kind of visualization of where this is going, that it helps us almost understand what the film's going to feel like. People are asking, wait, did you already film it? And are these stills from the film itself? It literally is that high end that we're getting the work right now. And we're just seeing it come in from all over the world, South Africa, Indonesia. We've got people from Ohio, and they're delivering on everything we were expecting from the design. So we want to hit early on, what is that conflict? She's been kidnapped. Now she's trafficked, and she's with other women that they are now calling cargo. And you have to visualize that. You have to say, what is the pain? What is the suffering of this stage of her journey? And those around her are going through that same thing. And then you run into your guide. And by the way, there's a story arc to every movie. It's always the story which starts with conflict, and eventually they have to reach their Ben Kenobi or their Gandalf or whatever their guide might be. In this scenario, it's a guide very similar to the story of the Count of Monte Cristo. And Red is our character in the prison who guides our Josephine out of her mental anguish that prevents her from freedom. And when he makes the statement to her, pure gold does not fear the fire. That captured so many of us. It captured me. I remember hearing that phrase before I even read the book, and I said, "I'm done. I'm in." That phrase alone inspired me. I'm going to have another trivia pursuit. One question, another quote. Any other quote that you remember from the book or from Red that made you say that Red just enriched my life with that phrase?
One that really stuck out to me, just grabbed me by the throat, was orphans dream of vindication, sons and daughters dream of destiny. Is that the quote? Did I get it right?
It is right there.
Yeah.
It's in our deck.
Oh my gosh, that's just a powerful one.
Yeah.
It's all about mindset, and the mindset that Red teaches her. This is not about, so many movies are about the vengeance or the revenge, like the bad type of revenge, where she, realizing her identity, is learning to kind of enact justice, and but it was almost through goodness. It's not the same kind of vindication, like I'm going to get you. It's like, I'm going to take down the evil ones to release those who've been in bondage, kind of thing. It's a completely different kind of vindication.
The escape. And of course, it's a Count of Monte Cristo style escape where she fakes her death and she finds her way back toward an edge of revenge. There's that conflict that's in our heart, when we go through these life troubles, and hers are, put ours to shame, right? And it all takes that kind of conflict to cause her to rise up to become who she's going to be. And I love this quote that came from the school library journal. Jo goes from an unwilling pawn to an empowered queen. And that look she gives you right here, where she's that empowered queen, it's that I am woman kind of look. And she's going to go make a change. She's going to go and take down what's wrong in the world. And that visual alone carries so much drama. Just love this moment. And then, of course, she gets to the conflicted part of her life because she finds potential opportunity with a billionaire who's going to, again, use her powers, but hopefully this time for good. John, what's the importance of Chan in the story, and help us understand why we need this moment where it's almost a bit of a relief from the conflict, and now it gives us just that glimmer of hope in a story arc? How important is this moment?
Well, it pushes the story ahead, of course, introduces romance, and introduces intrigue with her overcoming a global financial disaster. It's all of these interesting pieces kind of intertwined to make this such a powerful and compelling drama of her coming in and out of money, and in and out of complete destitution, where she was when she was in prison. It's good for us, I think, to see her kind of on top of the world before she's abducted. It's very powerful.
Of course, you can't have a thriller action movie without action. And so here we are in China, and of course, Kung Fu is the appropriate choice of fighting and action and drama, but it's in its own storytelling kind of visualization here, where when the Kung Fu masters are practicing, or when a fight takes place, what Jo can see is it must be amazing. So what we've done is we've asked the artist to kind of figure out, what does that look like? How do you visualize the numbers, the measurements, the way Jo sees the world? And one of our AI artists actually reached out to us and said, I think I figured it out. I asked ChatGPT to formulate the moves of a Kung Fu fighter, to measure them and calculate them. And I created a graph and a chart, and then I applied it to the design. And this is what it created. It literally calculated out and created a mathematically accurate fight in Kung Fu. And so this came out of artificial intelligence and brains that I can barely comprehend. But this came from the crowd, and super excited about this kind of visualization. Anybody seen some of these online? Have you been in the Discord community and seen some of this work as it's unfolding?
I have. It's very exciting. a picture's worth 1,000 words, so it brings everything into focus. And I think you guys are doing a great job of using these pictures to build up an audience before you even get the movie out there. You're building a want for your product before you build the product, and then trying to find an audience afterwards. So I think all of this is really pretty cool.